Well there, folks. Today we're going to be playing a little bit of Warplan Pacific. This is a Pacific War simulator. It is turn-based, and it's just got a grand strategy element to it. It is absolutely amazing, especially if you like this particular part of history. Now, the interesting thing about this particular campaign, it's one of many in the game, but we're going to be playing as the Japanese and beginning the invasion of China. The goal in this particular campaign, and I like it, it's to try and take as much territory before Germany declares war on Poland in 1939. So we really do have our work cut out for us, but I'm going to be following the standard Japanese plan for this particular battle or this particular campaign, I should say, and that is taking all of eastern China here, Nanking, Wenchao, Fuchao, etc. We're going to basically run down the coast. So first thing I want to do is actually create a bulge in the enemy line here, and then hopefully start to funnel our troops down here and head down their coast. Of course, we've got plenty more troops on the way, and over here we can actually build additional units, including HQ units, obviously infantry, tanks, etc., and a whole bunch of convoys where we can actually create trade routes for Japan. We also have an advancement tree here to sort of focus on either our bombers or maybe focus on assault tactics for our infantry. And of course, over here, we have the arrival date of reinforcements. So without further ado, guys, I think we're going to get started here on the operation and see if we can't win as Japan in the Sino-Japanese War. Now, I would love you guys in the comments, share your ideas and your plans for what you'd like to do here, and I will absolutely, if I take those plans, I'll absolutely give you credit. See, I'm thinking that a full-on frontal assault or coastal assault is almost impossible. I don't think it's completely impossible, but I'm going to keep things fairly simple and basically put these guys onto ships and bring them over here to the front line. So really, we're going to try and make this our main frontline area. And as such, I'm not going to risk them with a frontline assault. Although, you know what? I kind of am tempted to try it out. We'll see what happens. I think it's a bit risky and don't necessarily want to take that risk. So for now, we're going to start dropping some armies over here. This seems like a pretty good place to be dropping them. And another thing is totally unrelated to our campaign here, but the actual soundtrack to this game is great. Unfortunately, can't play it because I'm concerned about any sort of copyright issues, but I would recommend taking a look there. So again, we're going to try to drop these fleets. This one might actually have to drop there in the port, and I think that's going to be our initial goal, is taking the port city of Tianjin. So I'm actually going to be bringing the Port Arthur force over here as well. I'll have them march. I could just send them by ship, but I'm being a bit stubborn. And we're also going to bring our destroyer, cruiser, etc. squadron over here just to watch the enemy, although I don't really think that the Chinese can do much. What we can do is maybe blockade their ports, cause some problems, etc. But besides that, I'm not sure we're going to be changing much. We've also got this NLF force. I believe this is an elite force, but if somebody wants to check me on that, feel free. And one thing I really love is that this particular game doesn't necessarily use a casualty count, which I do really enjoy. It's really more of an organization and experience level. And the reason that I like that, at least in the recent research I've been doing with wars and things like that, when you're talking about, military tacticians, things like that, they're really focused on the organization and effectiveness level of the unit. That's really what they look at, not necessarily the casualty count. So I like that in this game. And let's get started. So here we go. First things first, this is a garrison unit. I'm not sure it's really going to be very helpful. But then again, he's here. So we're going to have him join in on the attack. Definitely wouldn't want the enemy to bulge through here from Tianjin, but I think we're pretty much safe. So let's grab our units here, and we're actually going to merge them together for a dual attack. And that's the Japanese mixed brigade here. I'm not sure if that's Koreans and Japanese or Indians and Japanese. Of course, there was the National Army of India kind of helping the Japanese here. But then the other Army of India, the Imperial Army of India, was actually with the Allies. So there we go. We have taken Peking on turn one. I consider that a pretty good win. And I'm going to take everybody, and as you can see, just try to charge this area, really try and push through, because I don't want these guys counterattacking or doing anything crazy like that. In fact, I'm even going to bring in our wonderful 7th Air Division. And we got another hit there. Absolutely wonderful. They have taken a huge amount of damage. While that's going on, we're just going to keep bringing on the reinforcements. And there is our Indian Mixed Brigade right there. They're actually really, really good fighters. Just as long as no air units pop up, they should do pretty well. And this early on in the war, the Chinese don't have anything resembling air units, from what I can understand. Over here, we've got another bomber, and I'm going to bring this bomber division right over here so that they can help with our frontline assault here against the Chinese. Love to call a tactical air offensive, but we need to get this guy over there to do it. So we're going to bring him over as soon as possible. It's going to take a little bit longer to get this guy over, though. Same thing with these guys. Try to get them over. We want to try and embark them. Might need to be on that. Yeah, there we go. So next turn, we'll probably get these guys out of here and send them to the front lines. All right, folks, I'm going to end the turn. Let's hope the Chinese don't do anything crazy. I think we're going to be just fine, and hopefully no crazy counterattacks will happen. But I did kind of leave some gaps in the line there. I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing that. I think for turn 1 we'll be okay, especially with all those reinforcements coming. But we've got to be careful. I would ask that if you've made it this far in the video, please let me know in the comments down below by just typing NLF or, you know, letting me know that you've gotten this far, and what do you think so far of the game? Again, it is somewhat different from a lot of the turn-based games that I play, a lot of the operational level strategy games I play. It's definitely a different approach. So far, I like it. I'm going to call this the breakout from Peking. We've got the 12th Division right there, the 11th Mixed Brigade. The China Garrison Army is unfortunately going to have to be sort of a frontline unit now. Actually, nope, never mind. We can move in our Japanese 2nd Army. And I'm going to take our Japanese 2nd Army and the 11th Mixed Brigade and try to blast through here. Of course, this is our road south. So trying to get through there is really just trying to break through to Tianjin and begin an encirclement from the east. So let's actually bring in some additional bombers, and I'm going to hit that area near Peking. Really good strike there by the bombers. Taking out 1 unit at least. Not too bad. We're going to keep approaching, of course, with all of these additional infantry units. Here we go. And this is, of course, going to be our North China Army HQ. So the HQ for all of the units here. We don't want to move him and do anything crazy with him. And from what I can see, this particular guy does not have that Oh, yes, he does. Tactical air offensive. So we actually have to have bomber groups. And I believe these are both bomber groups here. But they've already been used. But I guess if we select that button, we could maybe force all of them to attack a single tile at once. We're going to have to try that out next turn. In the meantime, I'm continuing my offensive out of Peking. And there we go. Again, I'm just going to try to fill those gaps because the goal is, of course, to try and take this position as quickly as possible and really encircle the Chinese. I'm thinking the important thing would be to get units out down here in the south and just touch that coastline, and maybe we could cause some encirclements as we're moving. So these Chinese units will, of course, be falling back if everything goes as planned, and we just want to use those units, get along the coast, and maybe encircle them as well as we're moving along here. I think it's a lot to ask, but let's just wait and see if we manage to make it happen fairly quickly here. At the same time, I'm going to be dropping off these guys. And look at that, man. The wonderful Japanese 21st Army has arrived. Got some Marines arriving. NLF units, I should say. I believe, again, that these are elite Japanese units, but I don't know enough about the Imperial Army to say that for sure. And, of course, the Japanese Expeditionary Force HQ. So we're going to keep that over here with the North China Army HQ. Now, I want to have different plans for this particular campaign, and initially I wanted to get to the Yellow River, at least in my mind, but when I look at the map here, the Yellow River is pretty damn far. It's all the way down here, and it means taking quite a bit of territory. So I think actually what my goal is going to be is to have the land forces occupy this little peninsula east of Tsingtao. By the way, really good beer there. I think that's just a good idea because having that peninsula lets me know that for sure I can get into this part of the country and really opens up a bunch of different avenues for attack. I'm not sure we can ever really get to Chongqing or Chengdu, although if we try hard enough and keep on playing, maybe it is possible. I'm going to carry out some final attacks here on the units south of Peking. And again, I didn't do a a joined attack. I did individual attacks for this particular phase of the battle. It's unintentional, but it happens. It happens. And actually, I'm almost tempted to move the general unit down there, but I think we'll be okay. We're going to end the turn. They're going to be focused on stopping this offensive, and we should be able to replace Peking. In fact, if they took it, they would be surrounded. We would very quickly destroy that army. But there are counterattacks here by cavalry units. Those are 100% cavalry units south of Peking. So let's put some units in there and see what happens. I also want to take a look at our upcoming reinforcements. And yeah, Peking was just fine there, but I really did not mean to make that move. That was kind of annoying. I don't think there's an undo button. Maybe there probably is an undo button. Should have used that. Well, lesson learned. So we're going to take, guys, the 1st Mixed Brigade and the 12th Division and hit this unit right here. In fact, I've got a better idea, and that is to simply begin to surround this guy. I will carry out attacks still, of course, but I'm going to try to do this with several Chinese units and pretty much just send our men forward and completely surround the area. Let's now take our bombers, and I want to try and strike the area that I plan to attack here. I actually plan to attack both Genjin here, the port city, and that unit behind the port city, because it looks fairly strong, all things considered. Now let's hit the city directly there. Already did some land damage, and I'm going to make this a full-on attack, concentric attack with everybody. Looks like we might only be able to use these two guys, and a total win. They completely retreated. I was hoping for a surrender, but they do still have avenues of escape over here south of the city. So we're going to continue that attack, and that's why I was bombing this unit. I want it to be as aggressive as possible for the upcoming assault. Bring up some more men, and actually these guys will act as reinforcements over time, because the men that we have here on the front lines, they've already done quite a bit of fighting. They're taking a beating. Wonderful retreat there. So we need to be careful with them. We need to always be sort of switching units out and giving others sort of a time to rest. That's very important in this campaign. And again, a concentric attack. Everybody attacking at once here. And I'm hoping we can break through, or at least force a real morale loss in the enemy lines. Not bad, not bad. I think we'll be through next turn for sure. We might still have one attack there, but I'm not going to worry about that. That's 1-on-1, not really going to do much to the enemy. However, I will continue moving over here with additional forces. In fact, we do have some reinforcements arriving, so let's take a look at that reinforcement screen and see exactly when those guys are going to be arriving. Oh, beautiful. Got some supplies. How do you like that? We're also going to go ahead and supply the beachhead here with this naval group. But of course, this naval group and the rest of the naval units, which bring supply, are going to be a lot more useful once we get to the coast here. Then we're going to be bringing them in non-stop to drop off gasoline, ammunition, food, etc. Otherwise, our men simply can't survive out here. So we've got some tremendous news. So look at that reinforcement screen, guys. These guys are ready to deploy. And we do get these predetermined deployment locations, but of course we get to kind of select which of those predetermined locations we take, and I think right around there with all of those armies is going to be huge. And over here east of Mukden, we also have additional units forming over here, and like I said, we can certainly purchase units, but I want to be careful doing this. Again, we have a lot of historical reinforcements on the way, so we might just want to kind of wait and see what happens. I'll make a tiny exception here, and I will get another unit of Marines. Let's bring in the Kure SNLF, and actually now that I'm looking at it, I think the SNLF is probably the elite force. So there we go, Marines built. And they will begin forming where we can deploy them. All right, we're going to end the turn it over to the Chinese, and see what they do here. Let's just hope that no counterattacks happen, and I'll be a happy fellow. Call me crazy, but it almost seems like they've fallen back. Maybe they're allowing us to take this area, and kind of hoping that we'll be happy with that, or regrouping their army further south. Whatever the case may be, we're going to start moving with these new units. I'm sure they can't wait to get to battle. Kidding, of course. Nobody wants to go to southern Manchuria here and have to deal with the enemy. What I'm going to do here is overrun the enemy. Of course, try and go for the good old-fashioned encirclement. I mean, especially while we have those units there where we want them. And as for the forces at Peking, I want to start sort of, well, I guess, beginning a front line. I don't want to make it too long a front line, so I'm going to take that city right there, Shimenshi, and pretty much make that kind of the start. From Shimenshi all the way over here east to the coast, I'm going to pretty much stick to the coast, keep our original plan, and just take those locations on the way. Maybe we'll turn westward and destroy some locations over here. For instance, there is an airfield at Huahe, and there is an oil depot over here in the far west. But again, this is why, especially for these videos, I'd love your guys' feedback. What would you do in this situation? Because, you know, I want to make the right decision, and it is a little bit tough. Here we go. Bring that HQ unit over there to watch over the battle. And let's commence the attack out of Tianjin. And the reason I'm doing this first is because if we can force this guy to retreat, we can absolutely surround that unit right there. So let's bring in the bombers over here. We're going to strike that unit. I'm just going to try to really weaken them. Keep hitting them with bombing strikes. Make sure that they've got their heads in their foxholes. And then we're going to go for the good old-fashioned mass assault here. Boom. See? Easy kill there. Surrendered. And I wonder if we could do the same with this guy. Whatever the case may be, I'm just trying to get south of him. There's also a rail connection here that breaks two ways. And taking that is probably a good idea. But it does seem that the Chinese have, for the most part, given up on the fronts directly south of Peking. They don't seem to be really making many gains there. That's just a garrison unit. But what we'll do with these garrison units, guys, is we will put them in the cities we've taken. Again, I don't expect any counterattacks. We haven't seen them yet. I really just expect the Chinese to form a line over here, north of the Yellow River, and pretty much have a defensive line amongst those railroad tracks, potentially amongst the river over here. Actually, not sure the name of this one right here. The Huahe. I'm not sure what the name of that one is. All right, let's go for it. End the turn. Hold on one second. I want to make sure we don't have any reinforcements to deploy. And that's why you always want to be checking, because as you can see, we do have the 19th Army to drop on the ground. And we can't spare a single force. We need every single one of our units. In fact, I'm taking the general here, the Japanese North China Army HQ, and putting them in Peking. They might as well enjoy the captured city there. Maybe have some Chinese tea. Who knows what they're going to enjoy. Destroy some priceless Chinese art. Anything is possible when we're in a city. All right, that front line is forming again. Very interesting. I like this. So they're definitely still putting up a fight in the west. But this allows us to kind of push in. Let's do something like that. It's good that they've abandoned the lines at Tianjin, and we're going to just try to exploit that. Definitely want to have a unit there on that bridge tile, because they could, of course, get behind us here if they did some attacks and completely cut off our army. That's one of the dangers of course, this invasion. Well, any invasion, really, is sort of that risk of being cut off, at which point we get no reinforcements whatsoever, no supplies whatsoever, and our units eventually disintegrate and fall apart or surrender. I love the movement so far, though. I think momentum is great. Again, the only thing I'm really wondering about is, should I do a few naval invasions across the coast here? Or is that too risky? Or maybe I should wait a bit and do those naval invasions, and for now, continue the push inland over here. Let's keep going, lads. And again, they did hold, but tremendous losses there. Same story with this unit. They held, but tremendous losses. So I think this turn, all we've really done is kind of damage their units. Well, killed quite a few of them. But not much has changed on the front line this turn. We have gained some territory, but, you know, very minimal territory. But a decent offensive from Peking. Like, this can now be our new, for all intents and purposes, our forward operating base. And it's going to supply all of the units here on the front line. I would go deeper into the woods. You can see there that we can probably go deeper into the jungle and take more territory, but I want to keep everybody pretty much close by, just in case somebody gets overrun or something happens. You know, we can respond very, very quickly. Let's go ahead and weaken those guys with an airstrike. I should have done that first. Shame on me. And let's actually use our airstrikes on those units at Wahe. I thought we were pretty far, but actually we're pretty close to that airfield there at Wahe, so maybe we just make that objective B, make this down here, the Yellow River, objective A. I think that's the correct way to approach it, and we're just going to try to follow those objectives and, of course, secure them as quickly as possible. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching this video. As always, I ask you to please like and comment anytime you watch one of my videos. It really helps me with the algorithm, and unfortunately, these days, YouTube demands quite a lot for the videos to even be seen. As always, let me know what you think in the comments down below. This is definitely a little bit of a different game on my channel. We do play strategy games, but maybe typically not ones this in-depth. If you want to see some more of this, then definitely like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much, folks. I hope there's part 2. If we get to 40 likes, or let's say 50 likes, and over 1,000 views, I'll go ahead and release that part 2 video. Catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching.